United States of America at a world power. When did that? How did America become superpower? Fledgling power, 1783 and 1898. World power, 1898 to 1945. The Cold War, 1945 to 1990. The sole superpower, 1991 to today. Significance of America as a world power. Lesson summary. Welcome to TIT TV. Today, the United States of America is a world power, a country that holds significant influence over a large part of the planet. This influence comes in many forms. The United States holds economic, political, military, and cultural influence across the planet. Because of this influence, many have called the United States a superpower, a country with a dominant position over most other countries. The United States is a world power and a superpower for many reasons. For one, the United States has the best equipped and best funded military on Earth. Unlike other countries, the U.S. can project its military power across the world through its large Air Force and Navy. The U.S. spends more money on this than a few countries with the next best militaries combined, and the U.S. operates nearly half of the world's aircraft carriers. And the U.S. dollar is the world's reserve currency, and English today is the world's lingua franca, largely due to American influence. The United States was first referred to as a superpower in 1944. After the destruction caused by the Second World War, the United States, Great Britain, and the Soviet Union were the world's strongest remaining countries. While the British Empire collapsed shortly after World War II, the United States and USSR were locked in decades of competition across the planet known as the Cold War. In 1991, the USSR collapsed, leaving the US the sole superpower. However, it took the United States a long time to rise to this status. While the US gained independence from Britain in 1783 following its Revolutionary War, it took the US decades of expansion and economic development before it became a world power in 1898. That year, the U.S. fought the Spanish-American War and seized control of Spain's far-flung colonial empire. As a result, the age of American imperialism and the American century began in the 20th century. In 1783, the United States was a fragile country whose newly won independence was a war away from being lost. However, the Americans' conviction in manifest destiny would drive American leaders to expand the country. Manifest destiny was the belief that God ordained the U.S. to control the whole continent and maximize its power. Fledgling power, 1783 and 1898. From its independence to 1898, the United States was a fledgling power. It was mainly concerned with expanding its border westward across the American continent. A fundamental aspect of this expansion was settler colonialism, wherein Americans displaced or killed Native Americans, settled on their lands, and controlled them as part of America. Throughout the second half of the 1800s, the U.S. went through the Industrial Revolution. The American economy switched from an economy primarily oriented to agriculture to one based on produced and manufactured goods and tools. World power, 1898 to 1945. After the United States seized the Spanish Empire, it now had a colonial empire through which it could project its power abroad. In the first half of the 1900s, the United States would focus on Asia and the Caribbean as new avenues to expand its political power. The World Wars, in which the U.S. cemented its alliance with Britain and France, also occurred during this period. Like Britain, the United States viewed itself in this period as a force for good in the world. Through armed interventions, the U.S. believed it could spread democracy and capitalism. At this point, the U.S. had the largest economy in the world and was the largest industrial producer. After World War II, the United States was unquestionably a superpower. It crafted a network of bases across the planet to allow itself to project its power worldwide. However, the Soviet Union, which wished to spread communism, would quickly challenge American power. The United States stationed large amounts of soldiers in Europe and Japan to challenge the spread of communism. The U.S. believed that if one country fell to communism, its neighbors would soon after. The U.S. and its allies opened the world to capitalist international trade through financial institutions like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. In 1991, the beleaguered and indebted Soviet Union collapsed into several constituent entities after years of fruitless reform. The United States consistently ran up against the USSR and its allies during the Cold War. Frequently, the US failed to impose its power on countries, thanks to communists' tough resistance, as was the case in Vietnam and Cuba. Now, without the USSR as a powerful rival, the US could stretch its arms like never before, as was the case in the Gulf War. The status of the United States as a world power and the world superpower is the central fact of international relations. The United States and its allies built the international institutions through which the world operates. Not only that, but the U.S. can express its particular will through its powerful military or economic pressure, because the U.S. dollar is the currency through which international trade is carried. The U.S. significantly influences the entire world's economy. Furthermore, American cultural influence has meant that American movies, television shows, and books have a worldwide audience. Because English is the lingua franca, Americans have an advantage regarding trade or business across the planet. However, American power is far from limitless. Despite occupying Afghanistan for 20 years, the country today has returned to the Taliban. Countries like Russia, China, India, and Brazil are growing in strength and may soon balance the United States' power across the planet. China, for example, is forecasted to surpass the US economically in the coming decades. Meanwhile, the Russian invasion of Ukraine demonstrates that other powerful countries can conduct wars to impose their wills. Many international relations scholars contend that the world is returning to a period where there is not just one superpower. The United States is currently a world power, as it is a country that holds significant influence over a large part of the planet. In the case of the United States, its influence is so great that some people have called the country a superpower, a country with a dominant position over most other countries. I hope you guys enjoy this video. To please make sure like and subscribe my channel so you never miss any video from TIT TV.